Storming Sanderson making me pause my life for 5 days so I can read a single book. Hello, I'm Claire and I like some books, like the Stormlight Archive series from Brandon Sanderson. I finished Wind and Truth approximately 12 hours ago and I have thoughts. In this video, I'm going to share the non-spoilery ones, and then maybe at some point, when I had time to ponder the book some more, I might do a spoilery review video. We'll see. Overall, I like the book. However, it might be my least favorite of the series. There are things I loved, and there are things that didn't quite hit as hard as I would have liked them to. I'll start with my biggest issue with the book because I think it's the most relevant one, especially to those of you who have not yet read it. Wind and Truth is not the big series finale I thought it would be. I went in convinced it was going to be an epic series finale like in Mistborn Era 1. It isn't. The book does have an ending, and it's a fine ending, but it's more of a setup for the second act type of ending than tying all the loose ends and ending. So, if you have not yet read the book, the biggest advice I can give you is to adjust your expectations. Don't believe the marketing of it being an explosive climax of the series, and you'll enjoy it more. Don't be like me, who now feels like I have read a decent book, but I definitely don't feel like I've read a series-ending one. Therefore, I am accordingly disappointed. The other non-spoilery type of notes I have are also mostly expectation-related. Most of all, the Sanderlanche. I've read enough Sanderson books that I now expect, nay, require Sanderson novels to end with reveals and revelations that tear me away from what I thought I knew and leave me stupefied and wanting more. Stormlight 5 has this. It's just not so much an avalanche as it's a slightly agitated river. The book is also slower paced than what the series has taught us to expect. The characters are way more introspective, and while I found that great while listening to the thoughts of the characters I love, it borders on boring when it's a character I don't really vibe with. The flashbacks are fine, they just don't add as much to the story in relation to how many there are and how long they are. And this sentiment of a scene could have been shorter or entirely cut also applies to the non-flashback scenes. This might be the main reason why this book is so long. I've looked it up and it apparently has 1,344 pages, which means exactly nothing to me, as I don't know the font, margin, or book size. But I do know that it is 62 hours long in audiobook format, and that is a whole lot of hours. Like the average audiobook is 10 hours long or shorter, which means that at least 6 full books would fit into this one. Usually, this is the point where I point out to people that the Stormlight Archive stories, while long, do have so many moving parts and enough story in them to justify the need for such a long book. With Wind and Truth, I am not confident that this is true. I'll have stronger opinions on this once I reread it, but that will definitely not happen this year. Okay, so these were the things I found neutral or negative about the book that I can talk about without getting into the details. If I ever do the review with all the spoilers, I'll be able to articulate myself more concretely. Now, as I did actually like the book, I want to spend the rest of the video talking about the things that I liked Unfortunately, the majority of things that are great about this book are also spoilers. So I won't talk about them as much as I would like to, among other things for fear that I would unintentionally give away something that I shouldn't have. If you've read any Stormlight book, you are familiar with the interludes. The first 4 books were divided into several parts, and between them we had the interludes. Basically, a set of short stories focusing on characters that are not the main characters from the Stormlight Archive. Wind and Truth is divided into more parts, so the interludes between them happen more often and they are shorter. They are also relevant to the main story, and I love all of these changes. The significance of some interludes from book 1 and 2 becomes clear only on a reread or if you already know a bunch of Cosmere lore. The Wind and Truth interludes make sense on the first read and are relevant to the story at hand. The relationships between characters that we all know and love develop and evolve, and it's amazing, and I loved every second of it. And I can't tell you anything more without giving you some spoilers. This book presents us with a number of main POVs that is simply unprecedented. Books 1 to 3 had basically Kaladin, Shallan, and Dalinar as the main characters of the book. Their perspectives were the dominant perspectives. And while there were other POVs somewhere in there, they really weren't as relevant to the story as the main ones were. The 4th book added Navani to the mix, and this 5th book just... I'm assuming Brandon Sanderson had his characters line up and be like, well, who wants to say in this book? And everybody raised their hands and he was like, yes. Now, even though this is an unconventional way of telling a story, I think it was well done and I liked it. I don't think Sanderson could have done it in the first book, not because he isn't capable, but because the Way of Kings story would have been watered down in the process. I don't think we would have been able to get to know Kaladin, Dalinar, and Shallan as well as we have if we were also at the same time introduced to 5 other equally important people. When we get to the 5th book in the series though, which is more like the 19th book, we already know all of the POV characters, and that's why I think it works here. Also, do read these books in order, like don't try to start with the 5th one. No. There are several characters in this book that get a satisfying arc. And that is the one thing I can point to that did feel like a series ending. In conclusion, if you want my opinion on whether you should read the 5th book or not, let's be real. If you have read the first 4 books, you're gonna want to read the 5th one. If you read just the first 1 or 2 and you're not really liking the writing style or characters or whatever, then the 5th book is definitely not gonna change your mind. I feel like my biggest squabble with the book is the marketing. I wish they had marketed the book differently. Had I expected a slow Act 2 setup instead of an explosive climax, I would probably be completely in love with the book. As it stands now, I like the ride, but I'm also left a bit disappointed. So I hope you, at least, have a better understanding now of what to expect. Until the next time you click on one of my videos, bye-bye. By the way, did you know that I have another YouTube channel? There I turned some of the main Stormlight characters into Lego mini dolls with a light weaving. Okay, I used regular acrylic paints that may not be as cool, but are available.